Let me begin by saying that I absolutely hate running. It's not so much grueling physical aspect, but it's just so boring to me. It's a pointless activity unless you do it for a sport or you're trying to lose weight or something like that. A lot of people have been asking what exactly happened to me. It's been quite a number of months now, but what I remember from this experience is honestly pretty fresh and vivid in my mind, given the circumstances. Sorry if it's so long, but you people wanted details. You can choose to believe it or not, but this is what happened. It was about halfway through the track season of my junior year, and I was just ready for it to be over. Like I said earlier, I hate running. My intentions at the start of the season were to drop a few pounds and hang out with friends, but I had already lost about 15 pounds and most of my friends at this point. The first week that track began, my two closest friends, along with the boy I loved and two of his friends, were in the car on the highway when they had a head-on collision with a drunk driver. His two friends both survived, along with my best friend, who I hear is now able to just walk again. My other good friend and my boyfriend, we'll just call him Nick, weren't as lucky. This might sound selfish or heartless, but damn it, I wish his friends were taken instead of him. I refuse to go into detail about their deaths, but that's all you need to know for now. After they passed away, I was completely devastated. As you would expect, my boyfriend, Nick, and I were very serious, or as serious as high school relationships can be. We had been together for a little over 2 years, and there hasn't been a doubt in my mind that I would marry him after we graduated. I was utterly in love with him. But I entered a massive state of depression, and I pretty much cut off all communication with any of my other friends. And even my friend that was in the hospital from the crash. I feel horrible for never visiting him, but I just didn't want to accept what had happened. I still don't. I don't want you to think I'm insane, because I'm not. Obviously, I'm sane enough to write this, and I'm sane enough to come to the realization that I was depressed, which is normal behavior for what I experienced. The way things happened are confusing, and the way that I present this story is the best way I know how to. Showing you all exactly what was running through my mind. I swear to God, I am not insane. The rain was beating heavily against the already muddy ground, transforming the dirt path into a massive slide. I had to be careful with each step as I stomped down the momentarily steep slope. My feet were sliding every direction with each forward motion. It was what seemed like a horrible day for a run, but not for me. I only enjoyed running when it was in the rain. It was exhilarating. I stumbled quite uncontrollably down the trail, following the rest of the runners I was with. Momentum combined with the interior and the poor weather created an unstoppable force that couldn't be slowed down. Unless, of course, I were to trip and faceplant into the mud. I did. I lay motionless for a few moments before I realized that I needed to get up and keep close to the group. These woods were incredibly dense, and the trail parted many different ways, more than once throughout. This was certainly not an ideal time to be lost. My focus instantly switched from getting all the mud off my face to catching up with the rest of the runners. I ran distance, and on this day in particular, we were running through the massive forest and trail system right behind our school. We technically weren't permitted to run back there, but it was our only option when we needed to run a lot of hills in our workout. Nothing could really go wrong anyway. I sprinted for a minute or so when I came to a part where the trail continued to go straight, or you could make a sharp left. Of course, I thought. There had to be a turn right now. I stopped and thought which way I would go if I were a group of teenage girls. So I chose to go straight. I picked up my sprint again and held it for no longer than 90 seconds before I had to catch my breath. I slowed down enough to breathe, but my survival instincts told me I needed to find my group. I couldn't figure out if they hadn't turned around to come back and look for me. They had to have noticed I was gone by now. They weren't leaving me on purpose, were they? No, I told myself, they weren't. That's insane. They wouldn't do that. The rain was pouring harder and harder as I frantically searched for my team. Time was passing, and I knew the run would be over soon. I kept searching long after I knew they were gone, and there was no hope of finding them. I had lost track of time, and I didn't bring a watch or phone or anything. I couldn't use the sun to judge the time because I had no idea where it was hidden behind the ominous clouds. I wasn't familiar with these trails at all, and the panic really set in when I realized how lost I was. I continued running for what seemed like hours on end. Brutal exhaustion possessed my body by now, and the temperature seemed to drop at least 20 degrees. I had to get out of here. The trail was never ending. I swear to God, I ran down that trail for 20 miles. Haven't I been here already? This is the 4th time I've seen that tree. I'm starving. I need rest. It's at least 10. My mom is gonna kill me. This is the 5th time I've seen that damn fucking tree. Why is no one searching for me? My legs couldn't take anymore. I had to stop. I collapsed into a soft yet freezing embrace of mud. In that moment, I was ready to die. I was losing my mind. There was no way that someone hadn't come searching for me already. How I had not found the edge of the forest by now. I had given myself to nature. If I had died right there, I would have just been fine. As I was drifting in and out of consciousness, I heard a voice that was getting increasingly louder. Not louder exactly, but closer. Someone is coming for me. They found me. Hey, I'm over here. Help me. I'm right here. I mustered up enough energy to yell. Quickly realized that no one was there. Nobody was going to help me. It was just a dog. It was a big dog. Seriously, it was the biggest damn dog I've ever seen in my entire life. You know those terrifying dogs that are as big as horses? This was bigger than those. This dog's incessant barking was muffled by the rain pounding in my ear, which had made me numb to the most noise at this point. I knew that I was in danger as I heard the barking draw nearer and nearer. I jumped to my feet as the dog approached me, ready to fight for my life. To my surprise, the dog simply stopped at about 10 feet from me. I began barking even more rapidly. It didn't appear to want to attack me, but I knew this was very clear and present danger. I needed to make my move. I knew I didn't have enough energy to outrun this horse-dog creature, so I scanned the ground for any sort of tree limb or weapon. The ground was pretty clear other than an inch-thick mud covering all the green grass on the dirt path. I was standing in the middle of the forest, and there wasn't any sticks on the ground. This was not my day. I looked up, and the rain drilled in my eyeballs as I stared into the night sky. The moon was almost full and illuminated the area surprisingly well through the looming trees ahead. I wiped my eyes clear of the rain and faced the dog. Its blurred vision began creeping towards me slowly, and I knew I had to attack. I lunged at it with whatever force I had within me and elbowed it right in the neck. I gave it a couple of quick blows to the head and jumped off to begin running away. It barked and whimpered furiously from behind me as I headed deeper into the forest. My running continued for a few moments, but I had no energy. I hadn't eaten in 8 hours, and I knew it must have been close to midnight by now. The running had taken its toll on my body, and I needed rest. I would have done anything to be home in bed right now. Fortunately, the rain was calming down quite significantly at this point. There was only a slight drizzle coming from the calm sky. I came to a clearing in the forest. I hadn't been here before, I thought. The clearing was empty except for a big tree stump in the middle. There were no trees inside of the massive empty circle of land, but trees surrounding the whole area. The moonlight reflected perfectly through the sky into the stump in the center. Words can't explain how beautiful the sight was. It was truly a majestic scene. It was exactly how you would imagine, like something in a movie. I walked towards the center slowly, but I stopped, because I knew I must be hallucinating. There was no way this was real. It was all too perfect. I heard something shuffle around in the trees. A bright red bird emerged and landed diddlingly on the tree stump. I felt a lump in my throat instantly. Memories came flooding back to me. Oh, so you're saying you can beat me? I know I can beat you. Don't you remember the time on New Year's? We didn't get to finish the game, but I was beating you so bad. Oh, whatever, that doesn't count. I hardly even remember it. I was too occupied by your drunk grandmother. Don't bring that sweet lady into this. I don't want to hear your excuses. We were always bickering about stupid stuff. It was never entirely serious, and the conversation always contained laughter and playful flirting. That's what I loved about Nick. He could always take a joke. I could say something slightly insulting to him, and he wouldn't return with something twice as mean. He was even more sarcastic than myself, which is difficult to find. The air was fresh, and the sun had just begun to set. It was the end to a perfect day together at the park where we had just had a picnic and made each other play on the children's playground that was much too small for teenagers. There was a big hill that overlooked the entire area, and that's where we were to watch the sunset. A single large oak tree rested above us as we hoarded its shade. Nick leaned up against me, resting softly as our breathing patterns seemed to match each other. A rustle was heard in the trees above us, and a flash of red darted towards the ground, a couple feet from us. "Ooh, don't scare it," Nick said in a somewhat hushed tone. "Look how cool it is." It was a little red bird with black wings and a tail. "It's a scarlet tanager!" he exclaimed. I couldn't help but let out a laugh. "Why do you even know that, you nerd?" I replied playfully. He hit me. I guess I deserve that. He laughed too, though, reassuring me that his feelings weren't hurt. "Shut up. You know I got put in that nature class this year on accident," he said defensively. It's a beautiful creature, and I actually found a new appreciation for nature recently. "Gosh, Nick, sorry. I never knew you were such a hippie." He laughed even harder at that one and hit me again. I love that guy. I snapped back into reality, and my moment of happiness was instantly washed away. I've been stuck in the forest for hours now with no sign of help. The tanager flew away, and I was only left with the memory. I was destroyed, physically and emotionally. I saw something on the other side of the clearing. It was barely moving between some trees, slowly. My first thought was that it was just some animal, and I almost shrugged it off, but it seemed to be wearing some sort of robe. I walked even closer, and I stopped beside the tree stump, and I began to make out the image of a person. They were wearing what appeared to be a white polo, and I was taken back by why someone was in the forest wearing a polo. My heart jumped at the sight of another human being, and I began to rush forward. I stopped dead in my tracks when I realized it was Nick. He turned around, and his black hair glistened. I recognized those bright green eyes instantly. He stared at me for a second and smiled, but then he started walking away. I couldn't let him get away. My bewilderment and excitement turned my dead energy into pure adrenaline. My only goal was to catch up to him. I wanted to hold him and never let him go. I used whatever energy remained to sprint back into the trees after him. Why was he running away? Didn't he want to be with me too? Maybe he hated me. Maybe he hated me. No, he couldn't hate me. He loves me. He loves me, right? "Nick!" I yelled as I ran. He didn't stop. I couldn't give up. He couldn't get away. He was so fast. He was outrunning me. He was barely in my sight enough for me to continue following him. My legs were just about to give out when I could feel my body ready to collapse again. Maybe I was already dead. I died long ago when I fell down, and this was my hell. I was trapped here forever. I could see something bright in the distance. It was shining through the trees and around Nick's body until I couldn't see him anymore, because the lights were making me so dizzy. I was running as fast as I could until I broke through the last lines of trees. Cop cars, bright lights, dark figures. There were 3 police cars and a couple other cars along with an ambulance scattered around the lot. I recognized the place as my school parking lot. I was on the very edge where it met the part of the forest. "There she is!" somebody yelled. My vision was slightly blurred as I tried to make out their faces. It was my mom. My mom and 2 other police officers were rushing towards me. My baby, I'm so glad you're safe," my mom muttered through the tears as she embraced me. Her embrace was the only thing keeping me from hitting the ground. One of the police officers called into his radio that they found me and that the search was off. "Let's get you to the paramedics," the taller officer said. They helped me over to the back of the ambulance where another officer was standing. He had bandages and bruises on his face. "Well, look who it is," he said to me in a sarcastic tone. "You sure knocked me good." What do you mean? I managed to ask. You got a good couple hits on my face when I found you out there yesterday. Almost knocked me clear out. My heart skipped a beat. Yesterday, I thought. My mind was racing. I never saw anyone out there. I didn't hit anyone. Yeah, I found you, and you told me to come with you, but you attacked me. I didn't mean to scare you. I was just trying to bring you to safety, he told me. The dog! I must have been hallucinating. What did you mean by yesterday? I was only lost for a couple of hours. During practice, I was running with the rest of the team out there when I got separated, I told them, confused. My mom and the other officers all looked at each other, bewildered. My mom spoke up. Sweetheart, you've been missing for over 2 days. The track season ended last month. You weren't running with anyone. 2 days? There's no way I was gone for that long. I even talked to the rest of the girls before we ran. My heart was beating very frantically. And as I understood, I had a really bad panic attack and my body shut down. I was starving and exhausted from apparently being without food and the rest for 2 days. I passed out. The next morning, I woke up in my bed. My sight was still blurry, and it took me a moment to readjust. I looked at the clock, and it made out 11-something through my blurry vision. After my eyes focused, I glanced over at my windowsill, refreshed to see some sunlight. A red tiger was looking at me through my window.